So, my prediction for the new type of gaming has kind of come to fruition.
You talking about Google Stadia?
I am talking about Google Stadia. What I have said in the past is I kind of thought down the road that, probably not so much Nintendo. They've always kind of done their own thing, but Microsoft and Sony, I would see kind of doing what Sega wound up doing and just making games, software, and consoles would be kind of more of just like a universal thing. However, it's kind of going that direction, but not in the way that I was thinking it would. So for those that are not aware, Stadia is a game streaming service where what I'm assuming you'll end up doing is pay a subscription, and then you'll have kind of like PlayStation Plus, where you have a bunch of games at your fingertips.
You mean PlayStation Now?
Plus I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. PlayStation Now. Yeah, Plus is the gold for Xbox. PlayStation Now, where you can play all these games on demand. I'm assuming that's what it's going to be, is you pay a monthly fee and you'll have a whole bunch of games. They did a beta test with Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Which I could talk a little bit about, and I wasn't thrilled with it. Like, they're promising 60 FPS and 4K resolution. I didn't get that on the test. I mean, I have a pretty beefy computer, but it's not supposed to be based on my hardware. It's supposed to be based on theirs. Even with my internet connection, I wasn't seeing 60 FPS. And again, it was just a beta test.
And they say that you need at least
25 megabytes.
25 megs, which I'm sure you're well over, if I remember it. You have pretty fast internet.
I used to have really fast, but I have business class now, and I sit about 35 to 40 download, which is more than enough for their standards. But
was there any lag? Was there any?
Actually, no, there wasn't any lag. It just I wasn't seeing the 60 FPS, and I'm going to give it credit that because it was beta, so I think they were just more of testing to make sure that the streaming side of it worked, which it did. I didn't play a whole lot of it because I didn't really care for the Assassin's Creed, but I wasn't seeing 60 FPS or 4K.
Okay. Now, I mean, that being said, when it comes to the whole, frames per second, 4K and whatnot, I don't care. I just don't. For one, I don't own my TV. I still have an LCD TV. It's not even an LED, so when it comes to that whole resolution, I don't care that much because I personally don't play games that require it.
You also have a CRT.
Yes, but that's completely irrelevant.
But like you were saying, though, you don't care about the 4K or
right.
anything like that. So, I mean...
So,
and I don't care about any of that either. As long as it runs well enough to play.
Exactly.
Even occasional frame drops aren't gonna ruin a game for me as long as it's still playable.
As long as I can't see it, even a lot of times when there are frame drops, they go right by you and you don't even notice.
Yeah.
That when you start getting into lots of frame drops, then you got a problem.
Yeah, like when I did the Project Stream, I was easily seeing 1080, but I wasn't seeing 420 or
4K.
4K. Goddamn. Woo!
Oh man, that's a pretty high resolution.
But no, I mean, like it was. I don't think they were trying to push out the 4K just because it was just their initial beta test. Again, I think they were just trying to try out the streaming, and that seemed to work okay. But I didn't notice any big frame drops or anything like that. But like with their announcements that they were doing at GDC or whatever, I didn't see the 4K that they were talking about.
Okay. And I know that. I mean, that is a selling point to a lot of people. That is important to a lot of people. So I mean, you do want that to look good for those that are going to be playing the most current games. And the whole idea, I'm guessing, what would it be like? I'm going to guess if you're doing AAA titles on a streaming now service, you're probably going to have to charge like at least $40 a month for that.
I would say 30 because.
Do you think so? Because those games are
PlayStation Now. I mean, that's.
Yeah,
$120 a year.
But PlayStation Now is mostly older games or games that have come out.
They're still AAA titles, though.
They're still AAA titles, but I'm talking about, like, at the time when they were doing the beta test here, Assassin's Creed Odyssey was new.
Oh, I know.
And if you're playing new titles via a streaming service that normally sell MSRP at $60 at least, I'm going to guess that your streaming service costs are going to be at least 40, if not 50.
My question then is, so all these new games, and we've talked about this in a previous podcast, have DLC. So if I'm paying for the service, am I going to get all the DLC content also?
And that's, you know what, that's going to be up to the company, I'm sure, because, you know, they're going to have to buy rights to the company, which leads into other problems because rights expire and all those contracts expire. So when you have this streaming service, it's just like Netflix. When you're halfway through a series and all of a sudden it's no longer available on Netflix, you know, I mean, it's pros and cons. You get a lot of variety, but it might not be there forever, as if you own the content.
Right.
Yeah, I could see them building in almost like tiers, kind of like Hulu and Amazon do, where you can buy Showtime subscriptions and HBO subscriptions.
Yeah.
Oh, to have like a DLC subscription,
Yeah,
which will be
like
all games with
yeah,
DLC.
like basically you'd buy an Ubisoft season pass kind of thing, and then you'd
Sure.
get all the DLC for their stuff.
But I mean, as someone who much prefers a hard copy, because I've been burned so hard on like digital games that are no longer being serviced, I'm a little worried about that. Like, if I'm going to sit there and shell out $50-$60 a month to play all these AAA titles, like Dan was saying, if the licenses are gone, what's going to happen with the money I just spent? Like, yeah, I got my enjoyment out of it at the time, but I still go back and play games that are 5, 10, 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, but if they do it, if it's a low enough monthly cost, like let's just say they do it for $20 a month, and you're not actually getting any copy of the game, you're specifically just being able to stream it. It gives you the ability to try a $60 game for much less than that, and then if you like it, you can always buy a physical copy
Yeah,
of it.
no, I get you on that.
Whatever system you
But
want.
what I'm hoping is that they don't make you buy the licensed title.
Yeah, if they keep it just at like a flat subscription fee.
Well, they would. That's
Yeah.
the only way that would work. You can't. I just don't see them. If it's a streaming service, there's no way you're going to be paying per title. That doesn't make any sense because that already exists.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I mean,
At
there's.
that point, I would just buy it off the PlayStation Network. or the
That's
Xbox
exactly.
Network
That's
and-
what that is. So I mean, it's streaming. I mean, it would all be on demand. You click and they say within 5 seconds your game's ready to go. That's a good selling point right there if that works. Because one of my biggest pet peeves, especially with modern games, is the install time. Even if I buy it on disc, I'll have to wait an hour at times before I can play
How
it.
long did
Yeah.
it take us to install Red Dead 2 on your...
Oh boy. Yeah, that was a long one.
It was like 2.5 hours
Yeah.
because it was a 2-disc game on PlayStation, which says a lot because PlayStation uses Blu-ray discs.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm putting 2 on there, each disc holds about 40 to 45 gigs. The game fully installed was only like 91 gigs.
Yeah,
but
that's
still.
that's insane. One thing that would be a huge selling point for me, and it's been a selling point for me with PlayStation Plus and Xbox Gold, when it comes to those free games, is a lot of times you get a lot of older games, and I don't mean old. I mean even 10-year-old games. They'll be free on, you know, as long as you have that subscription service. What I think would be a big seller for me personally is if the Stadia has, well, basically anything from 1977 until, 2005, kind of, you know, that era. If they had a huge variety of stuff to pick and choose from, that would be great. Because if you could somehow get, I don't know, Panic Restaurant on there,
Yeah.
or Mr. Gimmick, or
Color a Dinosaur.
no, or Kid Clown, you know, games that you just normally can't come by. Get stuff like that on there, so people that never had a chance to play those games could, that don't want to drop a ton of money.
Kid Clown is your go-to?
Kid Clown's, it's a fun game. Have you ever played it?
I have.
Yeah, it's fun. I actually enjoy it.
About as fun as Color a Dinosaur.
No, it is not even close to Color a
You're
Dinosaur.
right. Color a Dinosaur is so much better.
I hope my cat rips her dick off.
She might.
No, I would be all over a retro gaming streaming service.
Yeah,
I guess what's stopping us from starting something like that?
Money.
yeah, pretty much money. It's the same thing that's stopping me from opening another game store. It's money.
Fair enough. But no, I agree with you guys on that. Like, if they did a retro streaming service from, like, 1977, and I would say as high up to the first disc-based system, just that era.
Cartridge-based ROMs, you know,
Yeah,
that style?
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Stuff that's easy to rip, and I hate to say that, but it's basically what it is. Just rip the ROM, throw it on a service so people can play it.
There's still licensing involved.
No, I know.
Even with the games being that old, if you want Castlevania on there,
you need to talk to Konami, and that's going to be hella expensive.
And it could be. I mean, I don't know, but I mean that would be a great selling point because Stadia could have multiple consoles because I don't know, like for instance, PC Engine / TurboGrafx 16 available on Stadia. That would be a selling point because those are all expensive.
Or Neo Geo, for instance.
Yeah.
How many people have actually even heard of Neo Geo in this room? Besides, well, I guess all three of us.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, for those who are listening...
It's actually not... I think almost everyone's heard of Neo Geo. It's not that... It's not that obscure at all.
It's just nobody knows somebody who owned a Neo Geo.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess that's the better way
I can tell you in the 90s... All of us heard of Neo Geo. None of us played it unless we stopped into Funko and played the demo.
It was the holy grail system that you dreamed of getting a Neo Geo, but nobody could get one.
Yeah. So I'm actually kind of curious to see what direction they take. If they're going to focus on just modern games with Stadia, which will bring in a ton of people, or if they're actually going to possibly get some older games that might not cost them too much to put on. That could be a huge draw for people, especially with how retro games have become really popular in the past 10 years.
Right. And I guess my biggest prediction with Stadia is if Stadia does super well, like it puts out the way they promise, I think Amazon's going to try getting a piece of that also. Because, I mean, if we look at it, between streaming services right now, Google has YouTube, which is one of the biggest streaming services on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon has Twitch.
Yep.
The number 4 streaming service on the planet, right behind Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. It's like, it's weird to think that we watch more people gaming than that, or, you know, random clickbait on YouTube, which I'm guilty of.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up.
No, and you're right, and that's actually interesting to think because one of the things that I saw about the service is you can, since it's Google, you go to YouTube, you can watch YouTubers stream, and when they get to a certain spot, you might have the option to join in with them, or
jump right into their where they are in the game, so you can experience it yourself. So like, there's a really hard level.
In-game tutorials that overlay your gameplay to help you out if you get stuck.
Yeah, it's supposed to open up like basically like another YouTube window, like a picture-in-picture kind of thing.
Yeah.
Saying, all right, here's how we beat it, so you can see it. It's like, well, that's great. There are times like, even now, like, I'm playing Division 2, and I'm like, how the hell do I beat this mission? How do I get across this? All right, well, I'll quit YouTube search. I'm like, oh, I'm dumb. I had to go around the corner.
Yeah, and I was just recently. I couldn't find some wild artifacts in Final Fantasy 13-2. Shut up. And I could have really used. I really could have used that and to find it. It is way better than the first one. That's a different topic, but it is.
And kind of going back to your original point, like how Sega kind of went off to the dust and only to make games.
Yeah.
I really think if this kicks off, Nintendo and Sony, specifically those two, will do the same thing.
I don't think Nintendo will.
They might.
I think Microsoft would be first because they're already toying with the idea of not being a console company anymore.
Well, that's the thing is, there's rumors that the new Xbox 965.1 is going to be a fully modular system. So essentially, they're selling you a computer. As games get stronger, you're going to be able to pull out the old GPU, put a new one in. And there was reports that it wasn't going to be disc-based, so it might just fall under the streaming service.
We'll see. Granted, technology's different now, but that's how they marketed the original Xbox when it came out. It was upgradable, and you'd never need to get another console.
No, and I get that
3
didn't
consoles
work.
later, yeah.
Right.
Technology wasn't ready for that.
Right, but I mean, we're at the point now where technology is fairly disposable. Like, not all of it, obviously, but like, printers, for instance, my ink costs more than what my printer costs.
Yeah.
My printer is now disposable.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad to say, but I think we're getting to the point where, like, internal graphics cards for these machines aren't going to cost, $800-900 like they do for our PCs. So if they do, like, a bundle, like, you can get the Xbox, whatever, with, this GPU for this price, or you can get it with this upgraded GPU for this price. I think Microsoft is the only one that's getting ready to prepare for a streaming world, opposed to being just disc-based or anything like that.
That's possible. That's one of those things where time will tell, because honestly, every time I feel like I know the direction the gaming company is going, it takes a crazy turn that I was not expecting, and this streaming service, In hindsight, I feel like maybe I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. Not like this.
Not like this, no. Like, I figured they would have, like, each company would have, like, their own little streaming service, kind of like how PlayStation did it. But they're only doing it with, like, older titles. They're not putting the new AAAs on there, or even indie titles.
Right, so I will be looking forward to checking it out.
I mean, I'd be happy to do a review on it. I think...
Oh, I will. I'll get it. I'll get it at least for a month just to see it.
I was say, we all have USB controllers. You don't even need to get their third-party, weird-ass controller.
Yeah,
I think you described it the best.
Yeah. Well, how did you describe that?
It looks like somebody described a PS4 controller to a designer, and they just built the controller strictly on that description without having seen a PS4 controller.
I think it's the same guy who designed the first Mega Man cover.